Hey, welcome back. I'm Coben Juniper, author of the book Fake Bubble, which I wrote following my career as a founder and CIO of a billion-dollar multi-strategy hedge fund firm, which I had founded about 15 years ago. For more insights which can help to protect you from the next market crisis, read some chapters in my book. Iran told the United States, to their face, in formal peace negotiations, that they will not give up their nuclear program. That's it. That's the whole story. Everything else, the tankers, the mines, the Hormuz blockade, the supertankers turning around, all of it is noise around that single, world-altering fact. And almost nobody in the mainstream press is leading with it. Today we talk about why. This weekend, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and Iranian negotiator Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf sat down in Islamabad for what was billed as a serious peace negotiation, and by most accounts, a lot of ground was covered. Trump himself said, and I'm reading his exact words here, "The meeting went well, most points were agreed to." But then he added the sentence that should be on every front page in the world. The only point that really mattered, nuclear, was not. Full stop. Iran will not abandon its nuclear program. Not under military pressure. Not under economic collapse. Not under the threat of total annihilation. That is not a negotiating position. That is a declaration. Now let's talk about how we got here, because the trap Trump is in is real, and it was arguably predictable. The strategy was hit Iran hard, fast, and decisively. Destroy their military capacity, apply maximum economic pressure, and watch the regime either collapse or capitulate. And militarily, it worked. Iran's navy is gone. Their air force is gone. Their anti-aircraft systems are neutralized. Much of their senior leadership is dead. By any conventional measure, Iran has been devastated. And yet, here they are, sitting across the table in Islamabad. And when the nuclear question comes up, the answer is no. Why? Because a regime that believes its survival depends on nuclear capability will accept almost any level of destruction before surrendering that program. They watched what happened to Gaddafi after he gave up his weapons. They watched Iraq. They drew their conclusion. Trump's escalate-to-de-escalate playbook is extraordinarily effective when the other side has something left to lose. But when the other side has already lost nearly everything and still says no, you're no longer in a negotiation. You're in a confrontation with an existential logic you cannot leverage your way out of. That's the trap. So, what does a militarily destroyed Iran do? It plays its last card, the Strait of Hormuz, a 33-kilometer chokepoint through which roughly 20% of the world's oil supply passes. You don't need a navy to threaten it. You don't need an air force. You need minds, patience, and the credible willingness to let the world economy bleed alongside yours. Since late February, at least 22 ships have been attacked. 10 crew members have been killed. Around 800 commercial vessels are stranded, nearly 400 of them tankers. 20,000 seafarers can't transit safely. The UAE's top oil executive, one of the most powerful figures in global energy, went on record this weekend saying the strait has never been Iran's to close, and that blocking it is, quote, a direct threat to the energy, food, and health security of every nation. He's right, but Iran knows that. And now Trump has responded by announcing a U.S. naval blockage of Hormuz, ordering the interdiction of any ship that paid a toll to Iran, mine-clearing operations, and issuing warnings that any Iranian firing on U.S. or peaceful vessels will be, in his words, blown to hell. This is bold. But here's the problem. The U.S. is now also disrupting global oil flows. China, whose tankers were still flowing relatively freely until now, is furious. Gulf allies are nervous. The blockade strategy only works if Iran folds fast. And so far, there's no sign of that. Let's be honest about something. The nuclear admission from Islamabad, the fact that Iran openly told American negotiators they will not back down from their bomb, should be the defining headline of this conflict. It isn't. And I think the reason is uncomfortable for everyone involved. If you're in the current administration, Iran refused to surrender the nuclear program, and we have no clear path to forcing them, is not a story you want dominating the news cycle heading into midterms. Oil prices, tanker routes, blockades, those sound like logistics problems. Solvable, manageable. A nuclear standoff with no off-ramp does not. If you're in media, a story that ends with "and there may be no good outcome" is a difficult one to package. The incentive is to chase the visible drama, the supertankers turning around, the mine-clearing ships, Trump's Truth Social posts, rather than the underlying strategic reality those things orbit. So the nuclear admission gets buried. A footnote. The one sticking point. It isn't a sticking point. It's the entire point. So where does this go? Realistically, there are a few scenarios. The most likely outcome in the near term is a prolonged stalemate. Iran keeps the Hormuz threat alive. The U.S. maintains its blockade. Oil markets stay disrupted. Both sides avoid crossing the threshold that would trigger direct strikes on nuclear facilities, because nobody fully knows what happens after that. A second possibility: Iran blinks on Hormuz, but not on nukes. They quietly reopen the strait under some face-saving arrangement. Oil flows resume, Trump declares a win, and the nuclear program quietly continues. This is the kick-the-can outcome. And historically, that's a move the international community has been willing to accept more times than it should. The third scenario, and the one nobody wants to say out loud, is that Iran makes enough visible nuclear progress that the calculus changes. At that point, Israel acts. And if Israel acts, the U.S. is in, whether it planned to be or not. And the wild card: internal collapse. The economic devastation inside Iran is severe and real. A population watching their infrastructure get dismantled while their government refuses to make a deal to save the nuclear program. That pressure is building. Whether it reaches critical mass before any of the other scenarios play out, nobody knows. Here's what I want to leave you with. Wars have a way of accumulated facts that the people fighting them and the people covering them don't want to fully acknowledge in the moment. The nuclear admission from Islamabad is one of those facts. Iran is not posturing. They said it plainly. The bomb is not on the table. That means everything that comes next, every negotiation, every escalation, every blockade and ceasefire and supertanker U-turn, happens in the shadow of that answer. Until someone is willing to name that clearly, we're not having an honest conversation about what this war is, or where it ends. I'm Coben Juniper.